Hi, it's Chris Skio from Merchant Method, and you are tuned in to a Merchant Method Trend Report. This week, we are focusing on the trend of your unique business, and we are following up last week's trend report about taking stock of your year to date. I can't believe we're already in mid-June, and we're following up last week's practice of reviewing business with this week's trend report of successful business planning. And what I want to do with you is share 3 tips to help make way for success for the second half of the year. I will be talking about 3 pitfalls to avoid when planning your next quarter or the second half of the year, and 3 tips that help with successful execution. So, if you didn't get a chance to listen to last week's trend report, listen to it when you're done with this report. What we talked about was I provided a simple and comprehensive framework for quarterly business review or half one business review. You scheduled about 45 to 60 minutes to review business either with your co-owner or your highest level manager, as well as found time to connect with employees who connect with customers on the sales floor consistently and with frequency. This could be someone who either works as a full-time associate or a part-time associate that might be in the store for about 20 hours a week. If someone has been with you over time, that person is a great person to tap for point of view and perspective around the framework you're using to review your business. And then we also talked about gathering and maybe even fine-tuning your 2017 business priorities. Now, we've got a signature approach here at Merchant Method, and if you are wanting some guidance on how to review your priorities, I call them guiding principles and business values. The way I like to describe what really is the guiding principles or the priorities of the business is that these guiding principles really govern all aspects of how you as a leader make decisions for your business, whether these are operational decisions, assortment or inventory decisions, whether they are human resources decisions or financial decisions. These guiding principles govern all. And they typically don't change with changes in staffing. So your highest level store manager or general manager, you may have a shift in who is in that position, but your priorities don't change with changes like that. Once you have these guiding principles in place, they really are your guiding North Star or your guiding target. We can be very laser focused on them. I would ask you to look at your big projects or your big goals or things you want to accomplish and ask of those things on your list, hey, Project One, how relevant are you to my guiding principles, or how relevant are you to my business values? And that really helps create a list that is not only valuable to the business, but valuable to your customers because they have been ordered with respect to your business values. We also talked about coming to the table with your long-term goals and your short-term goals and why it's important to have both. So again, long-term goals keep you focused on the bigger picture. Without a focus on the bigger picture, we can lose our way following a path here, breadcrumbs there. Without the big picture, we could be doing tactical execution, or we could be pursuing curiosities, and then we realize and take a step back, wow, that really didn't help me accomplish or didn't keep me to the path of my business priorities, and they didn't keep me aligned with my guiding principles. Short-term goals are also necessary because they ensure frequent accomplishments. They ensure that you are moving the needle consistently and that you can celebrate your wins. So you're coming to the table with long-term and short-term goals. So as you are thinking about this 45 to 60 minute meeting, and it may even be more. When I was doing my own retail quarterly business plans, we maybe spent about 6 solid hours for a double-digit $1 million business. When I was working in product development and manufacturing, I would spend probably about a couple of days thinking through the business plan. So allocate the time that's right for your size and scope of business, but at least 45 to 60 minutes, right? At least. If you dedicate more, congratulations, you will utilize that time. So as you prepare to be in that meeting, here are 3 pitfalls that I want to share with you so you can avoid them. Pitfall number 1 is spending time thinking about the perfect planner or the perfect app or the perfect system under the delusion that the reason why past business plans haven't worked is because there hasn't been that perfect planner system in place. So I have seen it in numerous retail creatives. I've seen it in clients of mine trying to find the perfect planner. It isn't the form of the planner, it's the function of the planner. That's pitfall number 1. Pitfall number 2 to avoid is planning upfront, what I call pre-season planning, but not planning time for execution or check-ins. And without planning these critical follow-up activities, the pitfall is that businesses lose momentum. We get very, very excited up front, but we haven't accounted for all that it takes to execute the plan, and then we just totally lose momentum. And then it feels as if the activity of strategic business planning doesn't help you nor your business. It's a pitfall. Let's sidestep it. And then pitfall number 3 to avoid is poor goal planning. And what I mean by that is not selecting an appropriate structure around which you will hold yourself as a leader accountable, and you will hold your team as their manager, as their employer accountable. And poor goal planning is half-hearted planning. It's all idea without the heft and the weight to give the ideas credibility and to give the ideas gas so it can go. All those things, avoid, avoid, avoid. And here are 3 tips for really successful execution. So as I mentioned before, a planning system is really about function and not form. So just pick a system and stick with it. Stick with it for at least 3 months, 1 fiscal quarter. The success comes from the end-to-end use of the system, of the planning, execution, and accountability. So consider the tools that you already have access to. Are you already running all of your business communication through Google, right? So do you already have access to Google Apps? Or are you running your business out of Outlooks? So consider what you already have and what you can already leverage. Is there even a need to introduce anything new? Consider how you're asking your team to interface with the tool. Half of successful planning and execution is compliance, right? So you want to make sure whatever you're picking for planning and tracking, your team will be able to successfully utilize it, adopt it and utilize it. 3, consider the spectrum of visibility that you need, right? So 100% visibility to 100% confidentiality, and there is a whole range of needs within planning. So for example, perhaps you have really great employee forecasting, the number of hours you might need, maybe the number of new hires you might need, and that type of thing that you don't want your entire team to be able to view, but you and your highest level manager and your hiring manager all might need access to that calendar. So think through that spectrum of visibility to confidentiality, and then assign roles and responsibilities, because a calendar needs to be managed. It's not a one and done, right? We go in, we check on things, and sometimes we need to replan. Success tip number 2 is, in order to maintain your momentum, right? You don't want to get super excited at the beginning of the quarter and then lose all of your steam. Plan to plan, which is what we talked about last week. Plan, and when I say plan to plan, make time in your schedule. Plan to gather resources. Plan to check in. Plan to course correct. Plan to celebrate your accomplishments, and plan to recap. Now, this could be across any number of priorities that you have or any number of strategic initiatives that you have. And so perhaps your check-in could happen during your typical weekly check-ins, but you may have a strategic priority that's so big it needs a separate check-in. So plan all of those things. Plan a plan to gather resources, check in, course correct, celebrate, and recap. And tip number 3 for successful execution is to prevent poor goal planning and set yourself up for success. So you'll often hear me talk about SMART goals, but there are a whole variety of other goal setting paradigms like objectives and key results, or BHAG, BHAG, which is big, hairy, audacious goals. Whatever framework you select, and I'll share a great article in the resources, pick one and set your goals, all of your goals, within that framework with consistency, and follow it all the way through, because any of these strategic frameworks has some component of a key performance indicator, which means there's some level of accountability and some level of timeliness and some level of, did you achieve it or not? So again, however you plan, pick a system and stick with it, right? Consider the needs of your business. Consider the needs of your team, because it is about function and not necessarily form. Plan to maintain your momentum throughout the entire quarter or the entire second half of the year. Plan, 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 plan. What I love about plan is when you invest so much time in planning and you're in the moment, particularly for the fourth quarter, you guys, if you have holiday season spikes, at that point, you just want to execute, and you want to not be thinking strategically. You want to be thinking tactically and from a course correction perspective, right? So if you plan, you free up your mind, and you're not having to make so many choices in the moment. And then set yourself up for success by picking one of any frameworks for setting really smart, measurable goals. And if you would like more resources on planning, visit merchantmethod.com/retail trends and search in there for quarterly business planning part 1, which is about more in-depth about the tactics of reviewing past business, and then quarterly business planning part 2, which is more in-depth tactics about strategic quarterly planning, and partnering those with 3 tips for successful execution. I cannot wait for you to have your most successful third quarter and successful half 2. Let me know how it goes. I can't wait to hear. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Chris Gio from Merchant Method, and remember, I truly believe that you and your business can thrive in equal proportion. Thanks so much, and I will catch you next time. Bye.